All right, everyone, welcome back into another fantasy golf video. Going to be breaking down the BMW Championship here, giving you guys all the top picks and plays that you need to succeed, as well as some outright bets and a first look build for your DFS lineups. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, this tournament is a fun one because it's going to be playing at kind of a fun golf course. What we'll also see is that's going to play longer. Now, it is a course that is in Colorado. Basically, we know with that, the ball's going to fly further than normal spots. So the yardage is still going to play long. Don't get me wrong there. It's a par 72. It's still going to play long, which could end up actually being like a big thing this week, especially looking at the holes. A lot of them are going to be tucked behind water or can be tucked behind water. There's 10 water hazards in play. This length and kind of the course setup. I mean, look at this picture. I mean, this is beautiful. These are the exact kind of courses I love to play personally. I don't know if any of my viewers have ever played any courses in the Upper Peninsula. That's Michigan. For anyone that's not familiar, such beautiful courses up there. I love these types of tracks where it's a little bit tree line, water hazards in play. This gets me excited. This is like, I don't want to say it's like the RBC Heritage because it's a completely different course, but like that course I really like for the RBC Heritage. And this one as well. This is one that I wish the PGA Tour did more of this, where we get these unique courses. To me, this is a golf course. This is what golfing is. So I'm excited to see this course in action, needless to say. Now, guys, I probably should have started with the recap from last week. Last week was another, I would say, decent week DFS-wise, studs and duds-wise, kind of break even in that regard. Had some okay lineups with Hideki. That ended most of being a push, but obviously had a very good week outright-wise. So that was our 11th outright winner of the season, being on Hideki, which I would say is pretty darn good. 11 outright bets this year now. Over 120 of units profit this year as well. And just a reminder, if you guys want access to that write-up each and every week, as you should, because we've been dominating for quite some time, head down here to the bottom of the homepage, enter your email. You can subscribe to get notifications for that. But yes, we continue the success. It was funny. Last week, I kind of had a little bit of a rant about a Twitter poll that I posted, basically asking what people thought was a successful PGA Tour outright betting season. And the majority of people actually betted on any sort of profit, which to me, doing this for as long as I've been doing this, giving you guys this great advice for, over 7 years now, or 6 years, I guess, for fantasy golf, that was honestly shocking to me. And so it was nice that literally the instant next week that I, gave out betting advice, people were able to benefit from that right away. I never like to get too cocky because people might then overextend, I guess, their trust in me in general. But really, it's a process. It's a data process. We got it down. This is the stretch of the year in which it is a little bit more predictable. Now, again, with this week, even more so than last, I would say, being a new course that we haven't really seen, it could be a little bit hit or miss. At the same time, we generally tend to see the good golfers tend to play a little bit better at the BMW Championship. For whatever reason, it's one of those strange things. Now, we saw Xander and Scotty play well last week, but you also saw like Rory just absolutely be garbage last week. That is something that we do see, whatever, in last week's event at the FedEx St. Jude. Whereas this one, I think it's just more of a mental thing. A lot of these golfers know that they need to play well at this event, especially if they want a chance to win the FedEx Cup playoffs. So I do think there is somewhat of a mentality difference there. Now, obviously, guys, DFS-wise, with this being a limited field event, we have 50 golfers in the field. It's going to be much more difficult to be unique. It's going to be much more difficult to really have a great week. Outright-wise, we'll still make an honest effort of putting out good outright bets. But it wouldn't be surprising to see this. Well, I'm not going to be as heavy on this week as I typically would be any other weeks, but it would be surprising for this not to be as good of a week. Now, again, we go through the process. That's what fantasy golf is. A lot of people are probably thinking that same thing as well, so there could be an edge in that as well. Looking at course history, guys, obviously we don't have any course history. What I wanted to look at were really Jack Nicklaus course designs, and really two that stood out to me was the one that's played at the Barracuda Championship. I think that's the best comp course that we have, but we also do have the Memorial Tournament, which is a decent comp course as well. Again, I would say that the best one that we have is going to be the Barracuda Championship. The issue that we have with that is that really no golfers are playing twice in that event. Now, Nick Dunlap is going to be someone I think is going to be popular because it makes sense. He's a winner at the Barracuda Championship, and he finished 12th at the Memorial Tournament. Again, those are the two best comp courses that we have. Guys, don't go crazy with that. I'm going to pull up the specialist data here in a second. That's going to be our best source for that. Again, in weeks in which we don't have any course history, that's the best to kind of look at. That's why I have it there. But some other players, maybe Taylor Pendrith, who is someone that, was pretty good last week, a good value. I was hoping he'd be a little bit cheaper, but decent result at the Memorial for him and a 5th place finish at the Barracuda. So we like that there as well. And so yeah, let's go ahead and take a peek at that specialist data. Again, the specialist data is pulling in all the unique characteristics for that week's course and putting it into one data point. So it's a longer track. We got bent greens, going to be fast greens, not the biggest greens, thick rough, a lot of holes with water hazards in play. Okay, so that stuff's all going to be huge. Jack Nicklaus course designs. Location, we're not going to get a big sample size on that. We're just not. But anyways, the top specialists, and it's really not shocking, but Scotty, Xander, Morikawa, Rory, Connors, Hideki, Tony Finau, Tommy Fleetwood. I mean, we're not really getting any big surprises there when we're looking at that. Maybe a little bit of Taylor Pendrith again, maybe a little bit of Davis Thompson popping up in there again. But what I find interesting in terms of looking at it like this, guys, Luke Clanton actually isn't popping up as one of the better specialists, even though he has performed really well at those Jack Nicklaus courses. And so I think that's a good call out of kind of why we look at this as a full sample size. Now, again, with us not having any course history to go off of, we don't exactly know who or which key stats we should be looking at this week. That's the beauty of fantasy golf. We must have a tie for some keys for the second best stat fit, whatever. Oh no, Xander's tied for first. That's interesting. Anyways, the nice thing about the PGA Tour is that it does play at every single course, or it plays out at a lot of similar courses every single week, which is nice. We know exactly which data points to be looking at. That's why I find custom models to be pretty laughable. Like the amount of people that put a big emphasis on making their own custom models kind of funny to me. The amount of people trying to sell custom models to people is insane. Like, guys, I have a custom model on my website. It's available, included in there for you guys for $10 a month. You never hear me promote it because, well, you already have the 9 to 5 model. That's already dialed into what we need to be looking at each and every week. This is the one week where it might actually be beneficial. People might actually be gaining a decent edge this week by doing their own model. Each and every week, I wouldn't say that's the case. That's what's funny about that. But anyways, for key stats, what I wanted to look at was going to be more of the general key stats in terms of which key stats tend to pop up the most in courses that are new, courses that we haven't seen. And it really is just ball striking, total driving, stroke gain approach. I did want to look at stroke gain off the tee, which typically is not a key stat. That typically is not popping up as one of the most important stroke gain stats. It's just never popping up that much. There's like 3 weeks in which it's popular. This week, I'm going to look at it because it is a course that is a little bit longer off the tee, and that might create an advantage for some of these players on a track that they're not familiar with, just being closer to the tee, or to the green, sorry. I do really think, though, ball striking and total driving are probably going to be the biggest ones. Regardless, we kind of get an idea of who are going to be the good stat fits. Scotty, Xander, tied for 1, which is interesting. Aubert, Rory, Aaron Rise popping up in there. Corey Connors, Tony Finau, Sam Burns. We got Davis Thompson popping up in there. Max Gracerman, 14th best stat fit. He's probably going to be someone we go back to this week as well. So with that, let's finally go ahead and get into the players that are in the best recent form this week. And again, Max Gracerman still popping up top 5 in the field in recent form rank. Even with last week where he started out terribly, which was the concern with Max Gracerman, that he might get off to a slow start, kind of with that choke job that he had. But he ended up rallying, ended up having a great final round, shooting a -7, I think, in the final round. I think that was the best round of the day. Anyways, finished 33rd, which he did exactly what we wanted him to do that week. I mean, we'd prefer him to do better, but he did what we played him to do last week. And now we actually get him at a cheaper price point, and he's still the 5th best in the field in form. So obviously, love him. He's going to be a play that we're going out of our way to play again in a no-cut event. We want to be looking at these guys that are going to be very cheap that we can play with Xander, with Scotty, that are going to finish better than their price tag. That's like the first caveat. But if we can get a golfer that's going to finish in the top 50% of the field, that's really one of the lowest price golfers on the slate. That's huge, and that's what we probably have in Max Gracerman. Now, in terms of other players that are popping up recent form-wise, obviously with Rory's terrible week last week, he's fallen out of the top 5, just garbage last week. And so you have Xander still, Scotty there as well. Then you have Morikawa, Aaron Rai. Aaron Rai obviously played extremely well, -1 bad start mixed in there, but still, Aaron Rai has 12 straight make cuts. Corey Connors still popping up in there, 28 straight make cuts for him. You got Gracerman again. Sam Burns casually popping up in there as well. 5th place finish last week. We're going to probably be looking at him a little bit. Hideki obviously coming in off of that win. And so without further ado, let's actually just go ahead and get into those top plays for this week. So again, guys, the strategy this week is going to be probably just playing Scotty and Xander if we can do so. They're going to be the top 2 plays on the board this week again. And again, last week was more of a week in which it was more unique in the sense that I didn't exactly think playing both of them was going to be an exact route to profit, if that makes sense. Whereas basically every other week, just given the course and given the tournament, that plays out. And so I think we're going to go back to the norm. Last week was an outlier. I think we're going to go back to the norm there. So we do play Scotty and Xander. I think we're going to be okay with that. And honestly, while we're at it, we'll put in Grayson. I'll talk about him as we progress. But that leaves us with a decent amount of salary to fill out the rest of our lineups. And so let's look at it, guys. Like, outright wise, do you want to bet on Scotty at 3-1? I'm honestly okay with that. I'm not exactly sure of everyone's strategy when it comes to outright betting. What I like to do, and this is how the data's set up to tell us who are the best outright bets and everything, is I like to look at who are the top 5 players or top 5% players that we can bet on outright wise. It does make logical sense. I think you can make an argument this week where maybe you're just making 3 outright bets. I probably will end up doing 4, which is a little bit more than 5% this week, I know. But honestly, you could go, if you're doing 3, you could do Xander as 1, 6-1. That's very good odds for him. You could do Scotty at 3-1. Those are honestly surprising odds for him, especially coming in off of a solid week last week as well. So we look at those odds. I'm a little bit shocked by it. Like, I'll take that. I would have thought they'd be honestly like 2-1, maybe even 1.5-1. So after that, I mean, maybe outright wise and maybe DFS wise, you can get on Collin Morikawa. Collin Morikawa has been very steady lately in terms of his production. He's going to be the 3rd best specialist, 9th best stat fit, 3rd best in recent form again. He's had 2 kind of duds the last couple of weeks, and they were top 25 finishes. I mean, not terrible, but if you're playing him at that price tag, you certainly do need that upside. Ober's a fine play. Tony Finau can pop. Obviously, he has the length. Tony Finau's been playing extremely well, minus the Open Championship. I believe it was the Open Championship. Let's see here. Yeah, minus the Open Championship, where obviously it was terrible weather. Played terribly there, but since then, 12th and a 16th place finish. I do like that price tag if you guys are doing a fair and balanced build, and I will be doing that. And again, I will be using the custom model this week, guys. I will be doing unique stuff like that, where I'm going to be doing stuff like studs and duds only. Like, we're going to be doing that a little bit. Now, obviously, again, if we do that, it's just prioritizing studs and then the value plays. Heck, you could look at Jack Nicklaus course design, who's played the best at those are their past 10 starts. One thing that I do like a decent amount this week is actually going to be upside only rank. Obviously, with it being a no-cut event and a limited field event, don't really care about the downside. I want to know which players are going to give us the potential to win. That's part of the write-up from Hideki as a play last week. It's like, I don't really care about the downside with him. He could not show up and end up finishing dead last. At the same time, if he does show up, if we get good Hideki, he could easily go on and win. And so that's going to be another part of the custom model that I'm looking at as well. And so again, I do think it's going to be a week in which we can get a little bit unique. And I don't mind a build of going Tony Finau, Sam Burns, Corey Connors. Now, I mentioned the trend of Corey Connors, and unfortunately, it occurred last week because I was decently on Corey Connors. That's why it's unfortunate. This extremely strange trend that has been going on with Corey Connors, where we see a top 10 finish. That was his first really bad one, a 50th, but that trend still continued, where very good finish, bad finish, kind of bad finish, top 10, kind of bad finish, top 10. Like, that trend has continued now for like 4 months straight. And so it would be funny if this started out as a complete joke like 2 months ago. It's just something I noticed. And the trend has continued now for literally 5 straight events that I've been playing him a bunch, but the trend has continued still, and it's just crazy. Anyways, he would be a great play. I don't mind the idea of actually, the length might get to him a little bit. Let's see strokes gained off the tee. What does he rank in the field? So that's key stat number 4, 15th in the field, which isn't terrible. I mean, maybe. He's a player I don't mind, like long shot wise, 45-1. If you're going that route, I wouldn't be against that, I would say. But again, with the play like Corey Connors in these no-cut events, his safety and reliability, which is what part of the 9-to-5 model prioritizes, both safety and upside. That's why the data loves him every single week. we maybe do want to be chasing that upside a little bit more. And at that price tag, we can't really afford just a good finish. We need a great finish. Aaron Rye is going to be someone that's popping up. Really good staff at good recent form. Like, I'm okay with him as a play. Davis Thompson, I'm a little bit mad at the price bump. I don't really get it, especially in comparison to Max Gracerman. Taylor Pendrith is the play I want to mention. I would love to be able to get Taylor Pendrith in a build with Scotty and also Xander. I don't think that's going to be plausible. I mean, it is. You can definitely make it work. I just don't like the lineup path that I am left with. Now, again, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if you nail like these four. If you nail these four and they outproduce their price tags, or in Scotty's case at least matches his price tag, we're kind of okay with it, but the issue that I have is 6.5 left over. There really isn't that many other golfers that I think are going to be great plays, and so let's try to make it work. So I don't mind Nick Dunlap, like I mentioned, just based off a little bit of stuff I've seen on Twitter. It seems like people are going to be on him. You can talk yourself into it for sure. Obviously, coming in off of a good week last week, does have that comp course history that we would want to look at. Overall, not the best specialist, but not terrible as well. From there, Siwoo Kim's a fine kind of cheap play. I think the kind of obvious answer is probably Eric Cole. Austin Eckroat is also going to be something that's popping up in there as well. And I think those are going to be the two other value plays that I go with the most, other than Max Gracerman. Adam Hadwin, you could get to as well. Obviously, third place finish at the Memorial Tournament. You like to see that. But the reason why I like Taylor Pendrith is going to be his length. I do think that could add up. And just given the fact that Taylor Pendrith has been playing well recently, that is, to me, pretty encouraging, right? So we can make it work with him at this price tag. We would go Eckroat, and then we can fit Eric Cole. Like, I'm fine with that build. That's a solid build that we have there. At the same time, do we exactly need to do that? Maybe not. I mean, you could go Nick Dunlap. I'm actually okay with this. Actually, I think this would be my first look build. Now, with that being said, let's go ahead and show you guys, again, the 9-5 lineup builder, see what that's spitting out to us. And I do think it's worth calling out. Last week, the 9-5 lineup builder was much better than my hand builds. Now, my hand builds got better on Sunday. It was the first Sunday, I think, literally the whole year that wasn't like terrible. Really, there's been so many situations on Sundays where I'm like, I just need one golfer to really go off, or a couple of golfers to really go off. It just didn't occur, and like literally just the weirdest outlier season in that regard, where these went from being like potentially epic weeks to just okay weeks, good weeks, stuff like that. It's been very tilted in that regard, and so it was nice to have a Sunday where obviously Max Gracerman having a good week or a good night or a good day. Xander really pushing that second place finish. That was nice to happen. Honestly, guys, I was a little bit on tilt too with the Hideki stuff, where it seemed like Hideki might choke again, which, again, if you've been following along with the channel, you've known that we've had an outright bet in contention on the back nine on Sunday for 3+ months now. It's been awesome, right? This is a predictable portion of the season. That's not really shocking. What has been shocking is the choke jobs that have occurred over the past month. John Rahm, Gracerman, and then it seemed like Hideki might be in for that as well. Just crazy, right? So with that being said, I do think the lineup builder is going to naturally be able to adjust for the randomness that we're going to see in terms of which players go out and play well. And I do think that's something we could be looking at as well. Like literally gradual randomness. We could do that. We could even put like 10% randomness into this week, bake that into this week. And so again, I typically like to start my builds out with 30% max exposure, 3 unique players, see what that spits out. I did bump up Scotty and Xander's projection slightly. And so let's see if that gets them into some builds. It does. Whoops. And so let's see here. Yeah, Corey Connors at 25%. I don't know if I like that. But you guys will see by adding that 10% randomness, it really is spreading it out, spreading out the production in the field. I'll show you guys this real quick as well. If we take that out, we can include the gradual randomness. It still should give us a decent heavier exposure there as it is. And so it might not be a bad week to try to get that randomness, but if we do this, we're getting a lot of Colin Moore, Tony Finau, Corey Connors. Adam Scott's a little bit shocking there. We are getting to Xander, so Scotty's not being included in there. Let's try to hit the lock button with him real quick as well, with both of them, just seeing what it does. I'm curious. And let's lock them into 6, I don't know. We'll just hit lock, 30% each, and that's much better. And we are getting some Scotty and Xander builds, which I do like to see. And it is kind of mimicking what I was just seeing there in terms of which lineups we can go with. Now, the best lineup that it sees on the board is going to be Colin Morikawa, Tony Finau, Corey Connors. Again, I don't know if I see that. Adam Scott, Siwoo Kim, Max Gracerman. This is telling me that, again, it's a 50-man field event. It's going to be completely random. So with that, guys, outright-wise, I do want to touch on it as well. If you are only doing 3, I would say, honestly, just go Scotty, Xander, and maybe Collin Morikawa. If you want to get a little bit more unique, maybe Connors you could sneak in there. I really don't mind the idea of Taylor Pendrith. Does he have the mental fortitude to win an event like this, a group like this? It is tougher to see. I do like the numbers that we're getting on, like 80-1 on FanDuel is pretty good. Bet Online, I don't know if you guys have access to that, but 90-1 there. Again, we're chasing him because he's a decent stat fit. He's been playing good golf, has shown that upside recently as well. And I don't think he has that mental fortitude to win an event like this, but given the scale of this event, but it wouldn't be surprising to see him show up. I'm kind of okay with that. And that's to the point where I'm probably, honestly, you could just go Scotty and Xander. I do think that one of those two are probably going to win. And I'm kind of okay with that this week. This is a week in which I do think the top players in the field are going to play as expected. So that's going to be all for this video, guys. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. If you guys want access to any of the tools that you saw in this video, head on over to 9to5sports.com. It is the best value in fantasy golf, period. Get it for $10 a month. Get access to all these great tools. They're already set up and curated for you guys to do the work for you. No need to do those custom models, although you could do that this week. Thanks for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.